Okay, we are back in the lab. Let's talk about the progress, what's been going on. So the first successful comp made was the Catchmaster. It's good to go. It's ready for further testing, but we've got a lot of other stuff to catch up with. There was the EVA comp that was really exciting at first, and that kind of got thwarted by the difficulty of, the behavior of this comp. Most of that is probably due to the polarity of EVA because it's a copolymer. You have, both ethylene and vinyl acetate. I was kind of picking for the ethylene, hoping that it would, help put this into solvation using nonpolar materials, nonpolar plasticizers. That wasn't the case, so it's got to be, strongly polar. So anyway, we would need a polar plasticizer, and so that means pretty much that EVA is going to stay relegated to the back burner until the end because the only polar plasticizers we're going to use we'll try something inert like propylene glycol, something that would be simple that you can get as a food safe product, non-toxic. If that didn't work, then we'll probably go into DEGDN, diethylene glycol dinitrate, which will have to be nitrated, and we're not going to do that right now just because it'll slow everything down because I never even made it. Well, I did get some diethylene glycol, so I'd like to make some and test that out. But anyway, EVA later, okay? So we had the EVA, we had the Catchmaster. Catchmaster's good to go. EVA needs more, right? Then we got PIB. So the PIB comps are supposed to be the simplest thing ever. Like they're supposed to be have like a huge range or a fairly wide range of binder contents and ratios, and they give it various properties, but they're all going to be held together pretty well. That's not the case in my case, and it could be a couple different reasons. I'm not going to speculate on it. We're just going to try some more comps. So I've got one of those that I'm doing today. It's going to have a higher content load of PIB. We're going to do it at 5%. And then we're going to be doing a DOA at 7, over 7, and oil at over 3. So the actual filler is going to be around 84%. Then we also have products. All of these are pretty much recommended products. Darian Ballard recommended a Victor brand rubber cement, which I actually haven't gotten that, but I do have some other rubber cements. So I have the Slime rubber cement, and I've got the Gorilla Glue rubber cement, and they're usually like either latex rubber, natural latex rubber, or polyisoprene. So we have 2 samples of those. We'll do a comp with each of them. Somebody linked me to an article on Reddit where somebody made a 85% approximate fill with using rubber cement. So we'll try that, and I think they were using Gorilla Glue. So it looks like Gorilla Glue will be good to go. We'll test the other one. There were a couple of suggestions for contact cement. So I bought some contact cement, and I started to, research what I was going to do for the comp. And, I didn't know what contact cement was, but, it's a neoprene, which is a polychloroprene. And, to figure this out, it could be other types of rubbers sometimes. So I did a chlorination test with a piece of copper wire. And basically all it's doing is you heat up a piece of copper wire and burn off everything so it's red hot. Then you dip it down into your plastic sample. If it's got chlorine in the molecule, it'll get, it's going to coat onto the hot metal there, and it's going to separate the chlorine bonds, creating, you're going to create HCl that then reacts with the copper, and it's going to make copper chloride. You heat this, copper wire with the copper chloride on it in front of a flame, and it's going to give you a green flame, And that's because the photons from the excitation state are going to emit as a green colored light. So then you can you're identifying chlorine atoms that are in there, right? So chlorine is bad for polymers because you get something called dehydrochlorination, where you're like if your conditions are hot and humid, you get a lot of moisture, things like that, like in your munition or plastic explosive. You'll leach HCl, that's hydrochloric acid. So HCl can corrode materials, and some explosives are sensitive to it just because of the hydrogen in there. So anyways, chlorinated rubbers or polymers are typically avoided. You could probably get away with it. Like you could probably make a rubber cement, a contact cement comp and get away with it and be fine. You'd have no issues. That's probably the case. But in terms of, in practice, we're just not going to do it because we just don't even want to mess with that. We got lots of other stuff to test, so we're moving on from the contact cement. Next one is going to be polystyrene. So polystyrene earlier we tested, this is supposed to be an analog of the PBX 9007, and that would be a machinable polymer bonded explosive that's pretty tough. Well, since then there was a technician in the server, Casper. So Casper's got a channel. Short fuse man is what I think it's called. Put a link in the description. Anyway, he figured out that with polystyrene, I mean it's with many materials, you can use a plasticizer, an OTC plasticizer of diethyl toluamide, which is DET, better known as DEET or DEET. So DEET bug spray, right? So you can use DEET bug spray as a pretty effective plasticizer in polymer bonded explosives. So I started testing this stuff the other night. We were discussing in the server, like looking at the molecule, and he said, "Oh, I tested some stuff and it looked great." And so I was like, "Okay, well, let's check out the deets." So I tested on some polystyrene cups, and needless to say, it worked great, right? Well, Casper's been holding out the goods because he's got all the secrets there, and he already had a comp that he's done where it's polystyrene and deep plasticizer with an 83% fill. He's doing his ETN. I don't know if we have ETN to recreate it exactly, but we'll either use ETN or PETN. Earlier today, I did some tests with polystyrene, DEET, and PETN, and they were a little bit crumbly, so I probably want to modify them a little bit for PETN, and we'll do that again. But I do just want to recreate exactly his comp, but I would need ETN. So he's using ETN. There may be some minor differences in its physical properties when you're making the comp, and his just looked really good. So I want to try to recreate that. So we'll see if we can track down some ETN and recreate Casper's comp. He calls it Styroflex. Anyways, it's really cool because I'm into OTC and guerrilla type, compositions for employing explosives, and this is the case because this is a plastic explosive that's made out of trash and bug spray. It's right up my alley. We have a lot of tests, like they're gonna continue. They're not gonna end here. Okay, this is going on for a long time. We're really gonna get in the weeds on polymer bonded explosives. So the other one we have is shoe goo, right? Which is very famous in the military. This is used for the creation of sniper suits. Like the Viper hoods, the ghillie suits. It's kind of like the cheap material used when you don't want to do stitching everywhere. So shoe goo is actually I guess it would be a copolymer with it's got styrene in there. I know I can't remember exactly what the blockchains are. I mean, you'd have to look it up, but it's got styrene in there, so it's going to respond to toluene solvent, which is the theme that we're doing. Is essentially toluene solvent this whole time is what we've been using, and that's been the theme for everything. So we're just exploring one solvent system. So shoe goo will be no exception. We're going to dissolve that and do a comp out of that, and that's a lot of comps, because what that means is that right now what we're going to do is, and I'll show you the test from yesterday. So here's the test from yesterday on the polystyrene comps, the initial ones that I did that were a little crumbly. This is what they look like. That means that today we're going to do the new PIB ratio. We're going to attempt to do a Casper composition recreation with ETN. We're going to attempt to do a slime rubber cement with PET and fill. And we're going to attempt to do a shoe goo composition. So let's talk about what's going on over here on this glass right here. So we've got a couple different things going. We've got slime rubber cement dissolving in toluene. This is a proportion for a load that's already calculated. That's extra that was poured off. This was another one that was done that's going to be the actual Gorilla brand rubber cement. And I didn't have enough at first, so I had to re-pour. So this is actually ready now. We'll scrape this up and then be able to do a Gorilla rubber cement comp. And then we got the shoe goo right here, which is very different, just the way that it feels. I mean, this is kind of like sticky tacky. That one's less tacky. This one's more sticky. This one's slightly less sticky. They're a little bit different compositions. Shoe goo feels almost like silicone. So it feels like a silicone caulk, which would be PDMS silicone polymer. That's what this feels like. It's not silicone at all, but it's just a very different feeling polymer than these other ones. Then, of course, I've got Scapa tape, right? Because everybody, the internet is ripe with the Scapa tape stuff from you-know-who making a video about it a long time ago. So somebody sent me, one of the technicians, Nuop, sent me some Scapa tape to check out. And the idea is that, probing the behavior of different molecular weight PIBs, the stuff that we've been using that's like a big hard polymer block that is going to be a high molecular weight, somewhere in the million Dalton, consistency range. Scapa is going to be way lower than that. So the idea is that we can test some lower molecular weight PIBs and compare the differences. So I guess a Scapa will probably actually use the exact composition used before for the sugar, granular sugar comp, so we can directly compare two sugar comps with two different PIB weights and just kind of try to get an idea of the difference in molecular weight of what we're going to be looking at. So anyway, I've got the Scapa, I dissolved a bunch of the tape and toluene and removed the black backer, and now it's in this bowl. I've been peeling it off. We got plenty to use there. And then of course this cup, this is just polystyrene. This is a test reaction of polystyrene with, DEET to use as a plasticizer, which it works. It's actually, it's basically a solvent, but it definitely works as a plasticizer. Okay, so the first comp that we're going to do is going to be PIB. We got to attack this because the PIB has been jacked up. It shouldn't be jacked up at all. It should be the easiest comp out of all these, so it's very strange. It's most likely that the ratio is too low. We need more binder, right? So we're going up in binder now. So now we started out at 2.1%. If you don't know, that's a standard percentage for C4, right? Now we're stepping up from there and we're finding out whatever is going to actually work. The morphology of the granular sugar, it worked really well at a 2.1% ratio. It worked fantastic. Once we went into a powdered material like PETN, it didn't work. So we're trying it again. I've got PIB here dissolved already in toluene. It's been going, warm on the hot plate for a while now, and it's all dissolved. We're going to put our plasticizer in this little teeny glass. So we're doing 5.09% PIB, 7.3% DOA, 3.6% oil, an SAE10 form of oil, and then we got a filler of 84%, or I think it's like 84.1 to get to 100, whatever. And that's why I'm dropping it in this little glass bottle. We're going to rinse it out with toluene. There that goes. We'll rinse it with toluene. Now we definitely got all of our DOA in there. Now we're going to do our oil. SAE 10W, 30 SAE 10 is prescribed over something like a 5, So we're gonna stick with that. And this oil, like I said, is at 3.6%. Okay, there we go. So now we got our DOA and our oil in there, and we're gonna put this on heat and stirring to get everything mixed up homogeneously. All right, this is gonna get a filler load. It's 20 grams. That's what's spec'd off of. All these comps are gonna be 20 grams, so we can get comparable characteristics. Let's make sure it got some heat on. Good to go. So we're gonna stir that up, and then we will add our filler. Now I've already got a comp worked out here for the slime, so we're doing a 10% rubber, and then I was gonna do a plasticizer of bug spray DEET, right? So it's gonna be 10% of the rubber and 7% of the DEET. I think somebody on the Reddit, there was a Reddit post about somebody doing rubber cement, and I didn't see that yet, so I wasn't sure, I didn't know about their proportions that they had success with it, but I think it's somewhere around 15% on the polymer. So maybe when we do Gorilla Glue, we'll try to emulate whatever they did with success. But for this one, we're going to do 10% rubber and 7% DEET, and we're going to do a patent fill of 83%. What we're using for this as a plasticizer is this Benz brand. You can use anything, any form of DEET, as long as it's got that CAS number right there. And then we're close to 100%, because we don't want other materials in there. We're just going after the DEET. Now, DEET's known to, it has a wide range of materials that it can dissolve. People have etched sunglasses with DEET, sprayed GPS screens on accident with DEET. it dissolves some types of clothing, some types of synthetic clothing it will dissolve. Other materials it won't touch. Okay, now we're going to add this is our plasticizer, our deep plasticizer. We're going to add that to our rubber cement here. Casper actually said that he found this comp or discovered, it kind of hit him that DEET was going to be a plasticizer because he dissolved the smartwatch he was wearing. Spraying some DEET on, smartwatch dissolves. And he said, aha, this is a plasticizer. Okay, so now we're going to put this on heat and stirring. Okay, so we're going to try to recreate Casper's comp as closely as possible. I've got 20 grams of ETN that I hunted down. We've got it. I've got polystyrene in the form of a grocery store tray. This one's cut up. This one's black, so the comp is going to be black. I've only got 1.8 grams of that, so we're going to have to mix it with some other styrofoam sources, so I don't know what it'll end up looking like. But that's what we're going to use because this is the closest form that we've got to his molecular weight. So we'll start dissolving this, and then we'll make up the difference with the other packing peanuts. Everybody always likes watching styrofoam dissolve, don't you? Who doesn't like that? And this grocery store foam trays that they use, like on meats or produce, these work great, and they're also colored. Don't really know what the dyes are that they're using for the color, so I don't know how that interacts. Any potential interaction, you'd have to investigate that, but they work really well in terms of the density. The packing peanuts are way less dense, so you have to have like 1 million of them just to get your weight. But this stuff dissolves pretty quickly, and it's dense. It just works well. Peanuts were making up the difference in styrofoam. Our composition, by the way, is going to be 10% polystyrene and 7% DEET, and the fill is going to be 83%. Our filler that we're using, because we're trying to emulate Casper's comp, is going to be ETN. Last of the styrofoam, and it looks like when you get a black dyed styrofoam, like in a grocery store produce tray, it looks like the color, in terms of coloring, overwhelms standard styrofoam because that black dye appears to still be coming through. It's not like it's mixing and making a gray color. Just a note, if you're trying to color code your explosives or something like that, that could be a really handy function of this. All right, so we're all dissolved there. Now we're going to divvy out our DEET. Okay, so this is going to be a 7% DEET load. DEET is generally non-toxic. I mean, compared to other plasticizers, DEET is somewhat non-toxic. It does have volatility, so this cooks off. What I was trying to say was that it migrates out of the plastic. So that's like what the problem that I'm running into is. You get a really good consistency at first. It migrates out the plastic, and then you kind of have some trouble. After that, it gets crumbly on you. Okay, we're going to wash it out with toluene. Put it in my mix. Okay, now we're going to do a load of ETN. So the ETN load, all of these are spec'd to 20 grams. You got to be really careful with ETN. So especially if you're not familiar with this, if you're a newbie, sometimes newbies get pointed at ETN. I don't think it's a good newbie explosive, but ETN is very sensitive if it goes into its melt phase. So meaning that it gets hot. So you don't want to get it hot. So you don't want to use any heat. The polystyrene comp is fantastic in that you don't have to apply heat. This stuff just dissolves before your eyes. You don't have to use heat and stirring. I mean, you'll use stirring, but you can use manual stirring, and you don't have to use a hot plate, which is very good because if you heated your ETN, if you surpass your melting point of ETN and you're handling it with stirring by hand, you're probably going to get a detonation. Okay, so we got all the plasticizer and the plastic, the polymer in here, polystyrene and DEET. And it mixes up, it dissolves real well. We've got plenty of toluene in here to make it mobile. Now we're going to do our ETN fill by hand, no heat. Don't do this, okay? Do not do what I do. 20 gram fill. We'll see how much toluene is kind of exhibiting itself at the end, how liquid it is. Hopefully it's not too much liquid because it would be nice to dry this out with just air. Just force some air on this, get it dried out. That would be ideal. We're almost all in here, and it's pretty thick. Could be thicker. Might have a little bit too much solvent. Not bad. This isn't bad. This will dry out pretty quickly. Yeah, we'll run some air on this. We'll just force air over it. We use a pneumatic air, and then we'll hopefully dry it out that way. That way we can dry it with no heat. Pretty awesome comp, though. You get that black dye in there. You get a solid jet black PBX made out of trash and bug spray. We're going to let this dry for a minute, and we're going to go back to the PIB composition. B comp, now all these PIB comps have been jacked up. None of them have been great at all, unless you make it out of sugar, which isn't very useful for our purposes. So I guess I better annotate, exactly what's going on, the temperature. So we're doing this mix at 61C. I'm going to keep it on stirring, and I'm just going to hand drop a little bit of petin at first. Spill a little bit of petin. It's pretty wet. Got lots of solvent in there. We'll take that opportunity to just make sure it's very well mixed. So I'm going to mix this by hand for a little bit. You don't have to watch, and then I'll come back. Okay, so now we're now going to dump out this PIB comp. We're doing this on heat. Let's see, what are we even drying this out on? I don't know what the temp is. Let me look. Temp is 46C. That's too low. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. We're going to try to target around, I'm going to do it kind of slow, 55C, something like that, to dry this out, drive off this toluene. It's real mixed up by hand, and we're just going to drop it on this glass. And we'll put it in the corner. Pours beautifully, looks really good. Everything looks good right now. We'll see what happens when it falls apart. I would tell you that I was excited, but I've been traumatized by too many bad comps. So I don't get excited anymore. I just, deal with whatever comes out of this. Whatever comes my way, we're going to deal with it. That's drying out. That's awfully wet. There's a lot of toluene in there. Okay, now we're back to this polystyrene, trash bug spray comp with ETN. We want to be a little bit different in the approach to this. We want to be careful. We don't want to put heat on it. So it's pretty wet. We got lots of toluene in there. It is drying. You can see it getting driven off. But this is going to take a long time. So I guess we'll try some pneumatic air on it. Compressed air sucks, so don't do this method. Use light heat and avoid this because this is taking forever. But we are drying it out. It is slowly drying. We've lost a little bit of the material due to spillage. but it is drying. Polystyrene comp has been retired to the heat. We're not going to do the blow drying. We're going to put it on heat, low heat, below the melting point of ETN 61C. So this is heating right now at about 50C. The rubber comp is doing great. It's stirring up here. It's basically all dissolved. The only problem is I got to go to sleep. So I'm going to put some extra toluene on this and cap it and pull the heat down a little bit and then mess with it in the morning. Okay, so we got the, this is the polystyrene comp. It's drying out. It's slow drying. We're at about 30C on this. You want to be really careful if you use any heat at all. You need to be well below ETN's melting point. So anyway, that's still going. This is the PIB. And that feels pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a 5%, well, let's see. I say that, I mean, there's no stick there. This is a 5% PIB. That feels pretty good to me. It's getting better. Oh, there's some crumbs falling out. That's not good. That's never a good sign. I'll probably just let that cool and come back and handle it. But pretty good. Let's see how it presses in a pancake. Pretty good. That's minimal cracking around the edges. I mean, that looks good. Better than the other ones. So increasing the binder content is helping. I wonder if the DOA is too much. I wonder if it's making it a little bit too soft. Maybe we need to try one with less DOA. Better. This is improvement. So we're getting somewhere. We'll just keep on going. All right, so we've got our polystyrene comp. It's been drying at 29C. And it's pretty dry. I can still smell solvent in it, so the solvent isn't entirely driven off. But it feels good. This one actually feels better than Petin. So this one has the ETN fill. And it feels better than the Petin fill in terms of consistency. The feel on the hand is better. And the problem that I had initially with the Petin one was that it was a little bit too it just wasn't malleable enough. Whereas this is, this is a little bit different than that. It's pretty soft, but I just started working it, so I don't know. We'll kind of knead this a bit in the hand and see how it is. I mean, this is for polystyrene and bug spray. Okay, so here's Casper's Styroflex. This is pretty good. This is made out of trash and bug spray. You got to remember that. It's pretty incredible for what it is. What is that? Giant chunk of something. you can't complain with the materials that it's made out of. It's awesome. So low budget, so over the counter, man. So anyway, this is pretty good. If you wanted really long-term stability of your plasticizer, you'd want to change out the bug spray for something like dialkyl adipate or dialkyl phthalate. That's what Casper recommended. I haven't really messed with any of that. We also probably should do some comps with Petin instead of ETN, and maybe put in some mineral oil and see if that has a maybe that'll help seal in the plasticizer a little bit better and prevent its volatility somewhat. But this looks, it looks really good. Great jet black plastic explosives, and it's awesome. Okay, then we've got PIB. PIB comp feels good, very soft. This is about 30 degrees. It's still too crumbly. I've got some crumbling going on, so you can have 5% PIB with that molecular weight. It's almost there, but it's not quite. So we're gonna have to add additional PIB content to this. Okay, so first up, we've got the PIB Petin comp, and this is at a 5% binder content. Pretty good, but a little bit crumbly. So it's improving, but it's not perfect. So we're gonna blow this up to get rid of it before it crumbles apart. Okay, so results from that, we've got penetration through both sides. So it performed a little better than some of these other comps. It's almost like a perfect circle perforation, and you have some denting there. Hopefully that's visible. I'm holding the phone down low. Son, you've been making plastic explosives out of trash and bug spray again? No, sir. I really like this polystyrene comp. This is cool, man. This is so cool. This is what it's all about here. All right, let's detonate this. This is an ETN based comp, so the ETN, it'll be interesting because ETN is actually, it's a lower detonation velocity than Petin, but you're going to get some additional oxygen transfer from the positive oxygen balance of ETN. Okay, so this hole the perforation is very similar on the top to the first polystyrene, the 9007 comp. It's similar, but it's got bulging on the bottom. So there's some bulging down there. Hopefully you can see that. Pretty good though, for a trash PBX. So we've been drying these comps out at a little bit more gently recently. So this plate is now down to about 45 C. And that works pretty well. So let's just try that again. This one's really wet. We got a lot of toluene in here to get the rubber to dissolve and get on stirring. There's just a lot of toluene that was used, and that's what you're seeing here is the toluene spread out. So the comp looks gigantic, but that's just the solvent. So we'll try to get it all out, let it dry, add whatever's in this jar. We'll add that back to the comp, and then move on to the next one. Okay, we got these. This one's rubber cement slime brand. Interesting. Pretty crumbly. Seems like that might have some potential there. Interesting. Just a little bit too little binder on this one. Almost good to go. We'll put some oil on it just to see if it can be recovered. Mineral oil. That's what we're going with. I think that helped. Not bad. It's still a little bit too crumbly, but this is usable. You could use this in a ball. It's just not going to stretch out, with the... it's just not going to stretch out thin like some kind of dead sheet. But it holds form okay. It's kind of like a dry clay. A little bit crumbly, a little bit dry, but like a clay. Usable. I'm sure if you up the binder a little bit, a couple percentage points, it'd probably be great. So we'll try it again. Okay, so we got the what is it, slime rubber cement comp. It's got a 20 gram fill of petin. We're gonna go ahead and detonate this. It's nighttime. This one isn't a great test because it's crumbly. It's got to be improved. So we're just blowing it up to get the video done. Okay, so penetration, we have slight penetration through there. I don't know, hopefully you can see that. It just barely started to go through. It shot some metal through, and that's about it. Cracked it. Pretty good perforation in terms of the energy print left on there. It looks pretty good. And there's your bulge on the bottom. So not bad. A lot of these petin comps are obviously really similar, especially if your fill percentage is the same. Again, all of these have 20 grams, so they're pretty comparable, which is what we're expecting.